The unthinkable has just shaken Britain.
But now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
In a stunning 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court has stripped Keir Starmer of his authority, ending his rule after just 412 days in office. The judgment, spanning 107 pages, exposed secret funds worth £240,000 and luxury trips disguised as official business. Within minutes, Parliament froze, markets tumbled and anchors cut to breaking news alerts. A Prime Minister once held as a guardian of justice has now been judged by the very law he swore to uphold. And this is only the beginning. Stay with us. Hit subscribe and watch how this storm unfolds. The Supreme Court's 9-0 verdict wasn't just historic, it was devastating. Across 107 pages of legal devastation, the ruling detailed how Keir Starmer's office diverted £3 million in consulting fees to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, all while declaring zero personal benefit. Investigators uncovered 4 luxury trips to Dubai and Geneva, each filed as policy conferences, but no such events ever existed. Even more shocking, one of the hidden donors was linked to a company that secured £80 million in government contracts during the energy crisis. Chief Justice Dame Sukha's voice cut through the courtroom silence. No one, not even the Prime Minister, is above the law. Britain wasn't witnessing a scandal anymore. It was witnessing the legal execution of a government, and the countdown to collapse had just begun. Westminster became a battlefield. Within hours of the Supreme Court's ruling, security alarms bled across the Palace of Westminster as ministers rushed to emergency meetings. By 5 p.m, more than 60 MPs had demanded Starmer's immediate removal from office. The BBC's headline screamed, "Government paralysed." On Sky News, analysts compared the chaos to the 1979 winter of discontent, only worse. #Starmer out, #constitutional crisis and #be Britain chaos dominated global trends, hitting over 40 million mentions in just 12 hours. The Speaker of the House attempted to restore order, but was drowned out by a wave of jeers and outrage. Even Labour loyalists avoided cameras, refusing to defend their leader. As night fell, Downing Street's iron gates were surrounded by angry protesters holding placards reading, "Resign now and justice for Britain." By dawn, the unthinkable had happened. The British government, once a symbol of stability, was paralysed by fear and disbelief. The collapse was no longer theoretical. It was happening live as Britain demanded answers. Number 10 stayed silent. His aides were seen leaving in black cars, faces pale, clutching boxes of documents inside the bunker of power. Insiders described scenes of chaos. One leaked text from a senior staffer read, "He's not listening. He's furious." By the next morning, betting markets had shifted. Odds of a general election surged from 12% to 78%. Polls showed 68% of Britons now demanding Starmer's resignation, but the man at the centre of it all said nothing. In politics, silence is strategy. But this wasn't strategy. It was surrender. And the silence had become his loudest confession. When Parliament reconvened, fury filled the air. Opposition benches were packed. As Rishi Sunak stood, slamming his fist on the dispatch box. This isn't leadership, but it's betrayal. He thundered to roaring applause. Cameras captured every word, broadcasting it live to millions. Nigel Farage followed, calling Starmer morally bankrupt and demanding an election before midnight. The Conservative frontbench erupted with cheers while Labour MPs sat frozen, heads bowed. For the first time in decades, the chamber resembled a courtroom, and Starmer was the defendant. Documents waved in the air. Accusations flew and the Prime Minister's seat remained empty. When the Speaker called for calm, the chamber exploded again. MPs shouting, "Resign," in unison. In that moment, centuries of parliamentary decorum disintegrated. A government was being buried live on air. Outside, footage of the debate hit 30 million views within an hour. Headlines read, "Westmin implodes." By evening, even Labour's senior strategists conceded privately that the party's future was beyond saving. For the opposition, it was more than victory, or it was vengeance. And as the chants of justice for Britain echoed outside, one truth became clear. The courtroom had delivered judgment, but Parliament had delivered punishment. By nightfall, Britain was burning with outrage. Tens of thousands flooded London streets, waving Union Jacks and banners reading, "Corruption ends now." In Manchester and Birmingham, protest lines stretched for blocks. Police estimated over 400,000 people gathered nationwide within 24 hours. Chants of "Resign, resign" thundered across Westminster Bridge as riot police struggled to hold the line. A protester climbed a lamppost outside Parliament shouting, "He betrayed us." The clip hit 12 million views in an hour. In Glasgow, citizens staged symbolic trials reading aloud Riddler excerpts from the court's verdict. One placard read, "Justice has spoken. The people will enforce it." Across social media, viral posts compared Starr to Nixon, declaring, "Downing Street is Britain's Watergate." The atmosphere was electric, angry, righteous, unstoppable. For decades, Britons had complained of corruption. Now they were acting. Roads were blocked, buses halted, fireworks exploded over Trafalgar Square as protesters sang, "Rule Britannia," through tears and fury. As midnight approached, police sirens echoed through London's fog, blending with the roar of the crowd. Britain had not seen scenes like this since the poll tax riots of 1990. But this time, the rage wasn't economic. It was moral. The nation had declared war on its own government. The media smelled blood and pounced. By dawn, every front page screamed the same headline, "Corruption at number 10." The Guardian accused Labour of moral collapse. While the Daily Mail ran a full-page spread titled "The Fall of a Fraud," even traditionally neutral outlets joined the assault. BBC analysts called it the greatest constitutional crisis in modern times. Sky News reported that over 9 million viewers tuned in overnight to follow the meltdown. Piers Morgan opened his morning show with venom. "Silence is cowardice. Britain deserves better." Editorials tore into the Prime Minister's legacy, portraying him not as a reformer, but a deceiver. Political cartoons flooded Twitter, showing Starr sinking beneath the Supreme Court's hammer. By noon, hashtags like #EndOffLabour and #JusticePrevails dominated every platform. For the first time, even Labour-friendly media withdrew support. One BBC correspondent said off-air, "We're watching the death of credibility." Commentators compared the crisis to Watergate, but worse, because this wasn't Washington, this was Westminster. The press had united against him, and their verdict was final. Music, final. Keir Starmer was no longer Britain's leader. He was Britain's lesson. The shockwaves rippled far beyond Westminster. Within hours of the ruling, the British pound plunged 4.8%, the sharpest drop since Brexit. Global investors dumped UK assets and trading screens across London flashed red. The London Stock Exchange lost £92 billion in market value in a single day. Business leaders warned of a confidence collapse. The Confederation of British Industry released an emergency statement urging immediate political stabilisation. Meanwhile, reports emerged that several foreign embassies were preparing contingency plans for prolonged instability. At the same time, cracks widened inside the Labour Party. 8 shadow ministers tendered their resignations overnight, citing irreversible reputational damage. A leaked memo revealed contingency plans for leadership succession, naming 3 potential interim figures. Internationally, allies expressed alarm. The US State Department issued a cautious note urging respect for judicial independence, while EU officials held closed-door talks on post-Starr Britain. And markets trembled, institutions panicked, and ordinary citizens watched savings evaporate as mortgage rates surged past 6.1%. Britain's reputation, once built on stability, was now synonymous with chaos. One economic analyst summed it up bluntly: "This is not a scandal. This is systemic collapse." And for the first time, the world began to question if Britain could still govern itself. Behind the blacked-out windows of number 10, the fall was complete. Insiders described Starmer pacing the halls alone, muttering about betrayal. Only a handful of aides remained. The rest had resigned or fled. Mills went untouched. Calls from senior ministers went unanswered. One staffer later told reporters he didn't sleep for days. He just stared at the door like he expected someone to arrest him. Documents leaked from inside revealed frantic attempts to contact legal advisors. All ignored. Even his personal lawyer reportedly refused to take the case. Rumors swirled that he'd considered a televised address, but scrapped it minutes before airtime, fearing public humiliation. Meanwhile, the nation moved on without him. Former allies deleted photos, edited speeches, erased his name from official websites. In one haunting image captured by a photographer across Downing Street, Starmer stood alone at a window, looking down at the crowds, chanting, "Resign," the reflection of the Supreme Court's building visible in the glass behind him. Once the symbol of law and justice, he had become its casualty. And in that moment, Britain's Prime Minister ceased to be a leader. He became the ghost of his own downfall. Britain now drifts without direction. With Star 1, the cabinet stands fractured. Half resigning, half pretending to govern. Behind palace doors, King Charles receives hourly briefings, yet remains silent, watching the government unravel like a dying empire. In Westminster, rival factions plot through the night. Whispers of emergency rule grow louder. Outside, the streets still glow from protest fires, and the pound continues to slide. For the first time in modern history, Britain has a government without a leader and a throne that dares not intervene. The world watches the kingdom on the edge, uncertain who will rise to claim the crown of power. If you want to see how this storm ends, or who dares to lead Britain next, hit subscribe. Because this isn't the end of chaos, it's the beginning.